Trae Young has been snubbed from the All-Star game yet again, and maybe he gets in on an injury thing, but just the fact that he isn't already assumed after averaging 27-11, I think is more of just a stain on this entire Hawks organization than it really is on him. And if I'm Trae Young, and aside from just not being able to win and the fact that they can't build a team around you, all the hate that he gets and the criticism that I believe it to be unfounded has to be frustrating. And I just don't see a situation because the Hawks aren't close to figuring this thing out. They don't have the people in the building to figure it out, even if they were close to figure it out. I do not see a situation. And I said this last year, and people after me, Trae Young's going to get traded. And it just seems like it's inevitable. Like it might wait till the offseason. I doubt he's going to push something here. But this offseason, I'm expecting something firmly to come out from his camp. Like, well, we need to work something out. Or you need to do this, or we need or trade me.
Yeah, I don't. If Trae is on the roster the first game of next year, I'd be fairly surprised. This team is it is a functionally flawed basketball team from top to bottom. And Trae in and of itself is not enough to fix things. And I think, honestly, I think the window to trade him is closed. I don't know that there's a lot of dance partners out there for him, at least teams that, would want him that are title contenders, right? Like, does Trae have a no trade clause or no? Did he get that in his contract?
I don't believe so.
I don't think he did.
Hell, I'm sure he's ready to go.
I mean,
as long as to someone that's half decent.
Well, that limits the number of teams because there's only 20% of the league that's half teams that's half decent, right? I think in general, the problem here is that you got another front office that is just like, how the hell are decisions made around here? Who the hell is in charge? Who's doing what? Who's in charge of what? I mean, when the owner has to come out that vociferously and defend the hiring of his son, it's a bad. I don't know what the. I don't
embarrassing.
Know. Well, that's it. It's a bad look, right? I mean, that's the thing, Alex. It's just a bad look. Like, I don't know if it's factual or not, but the fact that he had to go to the hills so hard for his own kid speaks a little bit of volumes. Like, I get it. You're a dad. I'm a dad. I defend my kid too. But in a world that's supposed to be a theoretical meritocracy, where you're supposed to have a job because you've earned it, because you have done things that have been successful before, when you've given somebody something that they haven't, it begs the question. Now, if they were winning, no one would be begging the question. Like, hey, how smart is your kid? Your kid's the smartest damn kid in all the NBA. Wonderful. Not working. So now we question why your kid got a job that he probably didn't deserve. And even to a certain extent, I like Landry Fields. Kind of meteoric rise for a guy who's never a GM to get to the top of being a GM, right? Like,
yeah.
How did we get here where, it's like the United States government. So many unqualified people are in charge.
I said it the other day that it's pretty wild how oppositely ran the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks and Falcons are. You want to see how an organization is supposed to be ran, top to bottom. Terry McGurk and Liberty Media give Alex Anthopoulos all the tools he needs, and then he delegates from there. He doesn't stick his nose in the coaching staff and the training staff and vice versa. He doesn't go up to the players and suggest things because he knows where his knowledge ends and where his area of expertise ends. And that doesn't exist with the Atlanta Hawks or the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I think a lot of people who are going to watch this are going to look at us and go, why do you guys, you're trying to get rid of Trae Young? Listen, Trae Young, I'm going to go as far to say he's the best Atlanta Hawks player in franchise history. He's better than Wilt. I'm just saying we're all just addressing the elephant in the room that if we want what's best for Trae Young, it's not in Atlanta. If you were Trae Young, you wouldn't want to be in Atlanta either because it's a total crap show from top to bottom. Nothing is ran correctly. It's an it all starts with where Zeno is going. It starts at the top with Tony Wrestler and Arthur Blank.
Guys, again, talk about being fundamentally flawed here. Okay, just go to defensive efficiency rating. Minnesota,
that's the worst thing I've ever seen, man.
Playoff team. Cleveland, playoff team. Orlando, playoff team. OKC, playoff team. Boston, Houston, New York, Clippers, Philadelphia. These are all playoff teams. They play defense. There's a couple of bad teams up there. Memphis is a good defensive team, but they stink offensively. Miami is a good defensive team. They stink offensively. But, Denver's in the top 12. These are all playoff teams, guys. Like, I get scoring is important, but if you play zero, and I mean zero defense, like, let's go look at the bottom here. Charlotte, not a playoff team. Detroit, Atlanta, Washington, San Antonio. These are not playoff teams because they're not good. So, there's nothing about this team that's constructed. Oh, by the way, you had a coach in here in Mike Budenholzer who emphasized defense, and it was probably the best 3-year span that you had since Dominique Wilkins was in uniform because they played defense. And since you got rid of the guy, you haven't played a lick of it, and you haven't even gotten past the first round ever, with the exception of one lucky, series against the 76ers, which, again, I'll still maintain was the worst thing to happen to this franchise in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
I agree.
We all agree there.
What's funny about the owners, and we have to go to break in a second, but it is that everyone wants a billionaire owner that will shell out cash until they start meddling in business decisions. Liberty Media, not really involved, wasn't always the richest team, but you see who's more well-run. Coming up after the break, Alabama, this gambling thing, we have to talk about it real quick.